Hey, work from homers, Adam Schroeder here. We love bringing you this podcast, and thousands of you have proven that it's been helpful for you. But since time and online storage space aren't free, Naresh and I wanted to come to you personally to ask for your financial support through Patreon. Go to patreon.com/workfromhomeshow and help support the show. And we appreciate your support at any amount you choose. That's patreon.com/workfromhomeshow. Thanks for your support. Let's get to the show.
Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. Naresh Vissa with Adam Schroeder. Today we have Nick Loper on the show. Nick is the founder of Side Hustle Nation and host of the Side Hustle Nation podcast. He's the #1 best-selling author of The Side Hustle, How to Turn Your Spare Time into $1,000 a month or more, which I think many of us can benefit from because there's a lot of spare time when you're working from home, especially if the kids are back at school and there's just a lot of spare time. So why not make an extra $1,000 a month or more? Also, the book Buy Buttons, the fast track strategy to make extra money and start a business in your spare time. And the book Work Smarter, 500 plus online resources today's top entrepreneurs use to increase productivity and achieve their goals. So that's a book that we're definitely going to talk about on this episode because many work from home jobs use technology or they're online or they're information related. And we could definitely use some of those resources that people use to increase their productivity and achieve their goals. So Nick Loper, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's first start with the topic of side hustles. I actually started my company, my first company, Krish Media and Marketing, as a side hustle. And then I started my second company, Krish Capital, as a side hustle as well. So both side hustles have now turned into profitable. One of the businesses is 6 figures. The other one, I think, will reach 100,000 by the end of 2022. So 2 successful businesses.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
As side hustles. Yeah, thank you. So how about you tell us your journey of how you discovered side hustles to make money?
Oh my gosh. My original side hustle was way back in the day. It was a footwear comparison shopping site that operated on an affiliate model, basically, where I pull in the catalogs from Zappos and Amazon and all these other footwear retailers, and it would spit back out where you could find the best price on your next pair of shoes. That was the thing that let me quit my corporate job. That was the thing that I probably naively thought I could just be the, sell shoes on the internet guy. But like a lot of businesses kind of had a finite lifespan. And so I was really fortunate to have started a bunch of other side projects on the side from that, including Side Hustle Nation, which is kind of the main focus today. And I had another kind of directory-related site that I recently sold, and a bunch of other projects that failed miserably. But it was, that shoe business, that was the thing that was grinding away, 3 years, nights and weekends from the 9 to 5, and ended up being the corporate escape path for me.
I also spent time both in academia meaning I was a student, and then also in corporate working for several different companies. And it was at school where I started my side hustle. So school can be a full-time thing, going to class and studying, getting good grades. But that's when I started my side hustle. And then even when I was working full-time, I continued to pursue the side hustle. And when the side hustle became a full-fledged company, I then started a side hustle from that company. And now that side hustle is a legitimate company as well. But my question for you is, how old were you? I mentioned I was a student. How old were you when you started your side hustles? And also, you said you were working in corporate. Where were you working? What were you doing?
I love it, man. That's so cool. I'm curious to learn more about the Krish Media and Marketing story and the Krish Capital story too. I was a student as well. It was my senior year in college, and I started this affiliate business from kind of the basement of our little college house. And I remember, my roommates, were, curious, like, what do you're making money online? How does it work? Teach us. And so that was kind of the early days of it. This was 2004.
Okay, so this was, it's quite a while ago.
Yeah, see, I'm older than you guys, but so that was.
Well,
it
was harder to start a business back then than now. It's like super easy. Back then, it was there was no Elance or Fiverr or Upwork or any of that.
Yeah, it's true. It was when it came time to get the website developed. So I started out with like just direct link text ads on Google, which I don't know if that's really still a thing, but that was a good way to validate that people would buy, shoes on the internet, which I already had some experience from a marketing internship that I had in that space. But it was like, okay, this is a little bit difficult to scale because stuff keeps coming in and out of stock and the prices change, and it's just a pain. So my theory was, okay, if you could build out the website, then you wouldn't have to do as much manual updating. You could just point people to this landing page for this specific model, and then the prices would update in the background, and that would be fine. And it still ended up being a ton of maintenance, but it was guru.com back in the day where it's like, how do I build this thing? I'm like, I have no idea, and probably still wouldn't have it launched if I was trying to code it all myself. So I went to Guru and found actually a guy who was just like half an hour away from me. I was living in Northern Virginia at the time. So I went over to his apartment. We kind of hashed out this deal. Once he found out it was just me, like 22-year-old solo operator, he was like, let me readjust my pricing downward a little bit. So that was helpful. But the day job after graduation was for Ford. I was working in their service and parts division as a dealer rep, trying to sell more Ford parts, more Ford warranties and stuff. It was
in
car
Virginia,
business.
not in Michigan.
Yeah, in Virginia, calling on dealers there, calling on dealers in Atlanta, North Carolina region before circling back to the West Coast, and had some territory out in Northern California as well. The car business is fascinating. And some of these dealers said like their franchise is signed by Henry Ford, like they've been in business for generations. And it was really cool to kind of have a front row seat to some of the salesmanship and the inner workings of what are really a lot of family-owned businesses. So it was pretty cool experience to have early on.
While you were at Ford, when did you realize, hey, you know what, I'm going to pursue the shoes, the online shoe side hustle? Was it 2 years in, less than that?
Yeah, from the very early days, I was like, I have very little desire to climb the corporate ladder here. So I was trying to get that off the ground. It was the summer when I started, when I connected with a developer on Guru. And so the idea was there from the very early days. And it just took like a lot of software projects, took a lot longer than I maybe had planned for to get it off the ground. But then it was spent the next couple of years of nights and weekends, building out the inventory, building out the, background advertising for it, and just trying to get to the point where I felt comfortable saying goodbye and turning in the keys to the company car and giving my 2 weeks notice.
Why do you think side hustles have become such a big thing? I mean, it's something that, people have been doing for a long time, but it seems like in the last 3 or 4 years, the whole idea of a side hustle has just exploded, and there's now, almost like an industry of sorts that's really popped up teaching people how to run side hustles. What do you think has caused that big explosion?
I think there's probably a couple factors. One is the more depressing part, and that's kind of the economic necessity of it for a lot of people, given the exponential increases in the cost of housing and education and healthcare. Meanwhile, real wages, if you go back 30 years, inflation adjusted, are not keeping pace. And so there's this economic necessity for a lot of people just to make ends meet. The second part is the more fun part to focus on. And that's just that we have the ability to do stuff that we never had before. And you kind of see, you live people's highlight reels through social media, and you see all this cool stuff that other people are doing, and you're like, well, why don't I figure something like that out? How do I get that? So I like to focus maybe more on that, proactive side rather than the reactive side, to say, okay, we have the ability to use our free time more effectively, more productively, and build extra income streams, build wealth, and maybe do something that we really care about with our limited time here on this planet.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Adam and I, we've done a few episodes on side hustles, and he and I are both real estate investors, and both started out as side hustles for us. And now both of us do pretty well at real estate investing. And the number one comment that I get, I think Adam probably gets the same thing, the number one comment I get on the coaching side of real estate when we're coaching clients through real estate investing, people say, I want this real estate investing. I want, buying single family homes to replace the income that I make at my job, or I want to attain financial freedom. Financial freedom, the definition is essentially making enough money to cover your bills,
right?
To cover your lifestyle and your bills. That's financial freedom, essentially through a side hustle or passively. So that's number one, because I think the idea of corporatism, of working at a Ford for 30 plus years and then retiring with a good pension, those days are long gone. And the younger generation is really moving on and they moving forward, I think, in the sense they don't have loyalty because they realize companies don't have loyalty, and they want that freedom. They want to travel around, they want to enjoy life, and they want to make the quick buck, or they want to make money easily without having to work as hard going into a Ford plant. So I think that's going to continue to, you see it. I mean, you own companies. Your podcast is called Side Hustle Nation. Your company is called Side Hustle Nation. So you're seeing it firsthand. I think you're seeing it firsthand as far as the trends go.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are both in the real estate space, because this is, the term side hustle maybe has become popularized in the last 5 to 10 years. But it's been around forever, right? It's just, millennials have rebranded it, right? Previous generations called it moonlighting, but people have been, buying rental properties for as long as people have needed housing. It's nothing new. So I like that you guys are involved in it as well.
You talk about, helping people find their side hustles. Like everybody, you hear of somebody, like, for example, with you with the shoes, you could say, oh, I could make money doing the shoe thing too. But, that's, not for everybody, obviously. And kind of if you're trying to jump into a place where people have, already kind of flooded into, you probably get a little bit late to the game, and it might not be for you. How do you think people go about finding the side hustle that actually fits their life?
It's trying to find the sweet spot between what you enjoy doing, or at least what you can tolerate doing. Because the common advice is to follow your passion or start a business around your passion. But if your passion doesn't solve a problem for anybody else, that's probably not a great business model. But something that you enjoy doing and can foresee yourself doing for a decent amount of time is probably a good place to consider, at least have on your consideration list. Like in my case, I didn't know anything about shoes. I didn't really care about shoes, was not a sneakerhead, but I did really love the process of building something that I had ownership over, that I could see the direct impact of my results to the bottom line. Like I grew passionate about the business growth and optimization side of it. And the next thing to consider is, what problems do you see in the world around you? What problems have you overcome in your own life? And I normally try and be more optimistic than this, but one exercise that you can try is, for over the course of a day, a week, 2 weeks, like keep a notes app on your phone of everything that annoys you, everything that sucks. I call it the what sucks exercise. And you just like try to make a note of like, oh, I had to iron my shirt, or I had to pick up the dog's poop, or I had to go get my car repaired. And not everything is a business that you're going to be qualified to do, but there's often a business idea on the other side of those pain points And to the pooper scooper example, like a guest on the show actually had that light bulb moment of like, out in the backyard picking up her own dog's poop. Like, yeah, this is such a drag. But you know what? If it's a drag for me, it's probably a drag for other people too. And I might not hate it as much if I was getting paid to do it. And so when we connected for the podcast, she had like 80 to 100 recurring weekly customers hiring her and her team to go out and clean up their dog's poop. I was like, recurring revenue, simple blue collar service, low startup costs. I was like, this is maybe not the sexiest business in the world, but it's a pretty
it's
effective
never going
one.
away.
Right?
You share in one of your books the 3 C's for building a profitable side hustle from home. Can you share those with us?
These are the 3 C's that I consider some key building blocks or ingredients, and talked about this in my TEDx talk. Gosh, it was almost 6 years ago, 7.5 years. It was a long time ago. But these are creation, connection, and contribution. So this is, okay, what are you going to bring forth into the world? What are you going to create? How are you going to connect with customers for that? That's kind of the marketing piece there. And then the contribution is, how does it help them? How does it help the world? How does it make the world a better place? And so I think one of the examples in the TEDx talk was my wife and her partner's photography business. Was like the connection in their case was started with like an ad on Craigslist. I was like, and me, the marketing major from college, like, who is looking for wedding photographers on Craigslist for what? Like, that's crazy. And I shut up real fast when they had like 10 inquiries within the first couple of days. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
I know we know Adam and I know somebody who hires like freelancers, lawyers, photographers on Craigslist.
Yeah. I was blown away by the response there. And that was, several years ago. So maybe there's other up and coming marketplaces where it makes more sense to advertise today. But they were, started out priced very low to build up their portfolio because these brides were taking a risk on them. They're kind of an unproven quantity. And in their case, the contribution was like, hopefully, some pictures that these couples will cherish for the rest of their lives. So, what's the value that you add? How do you connect with customers? And then what is the spark, the idea, the creation that you're bringing out into the world?
When it comes to actually getting your side hustle done, a lot of people, when they're first doing their side hustle, they're doing it while they're having a full-time job. They're wanting to replace the income, at least in part, so they can cut back or, go take a job doing something else they want to do. But, you have a limited amount of time. So what tools or what software is out there that you find is helping people really kind of streamline their process and allow them to get to the actual work that's going to generate money for them in their side hustle?
I think the biggest thing, probably the best bang for your buck, is some sort of calendaring system or scheduling system. And for me, it's just, Google Calendar for free. There's no need to get super fancy on this, but making a date with yourself, setting an appointment with yourself to work on this and being consistent about it, even if it's just 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, half an hour a day, like being diligent about it, that's how you can move the ball forward versus, I've been guilty of this too. It's like, I have this project on my to-do list and it's like, I keep staring at it. It's like, I'm never going to have this miracle 56-hour uninterrupted block of time to get this done, but I can chip away at it. And I think it's the same way with getting anything off the ground. It's like, okay, what can I make progress on? And trying to be, in my case, diligent about writing my top 3 priorities for the next day, the night before. So I don't have this, reactive mode ramp up period when it comes to be work time on, well, what am I supposed to do? It's like, no, night before Nick told me exactly what I needed to do and in what order.
With regard to resources, you came out with a book, Work Smarter, 500 plus online resources today's top entrepreneurs use to increase productivity and achieve their goals. Can you share some of these resources and also apply them? Which of these resources can our listeners use to find side gigs and succeed at them?
Yeah, I'll share a few of my favorites. I'm curious to hear yours too. But a couple that I rely on religiously are LastPass for password management. Just for every different site that you have to log into and create secure passwords for and remember all this stuff. Like I don't need it cluttering up my brain space. And so LastPass has been a lifesaver for the last several years.
I'll tell you the problem I have with LastPass. If you forget your password to LastPass, you're royally screwed. And that's happened to me twice.
They don't make you log back in nearly often enough. I've been in the same boat.
Yep. And what other?
Yeah, there's probably a setting there. The other one that I rely on every day is called Text Expander. And this is just, a tool that lets you create your own keyboard shortcuts for commonly typed words and phrases. It is just a huge lifesaver. You end up kind of creating your own little shortcode of different snippets to reply to emails or to type in URLs or email addresses. That's one that I really do love. And then this is a specific tool for Windows called ClipX, which is a clipboard management tool that saves the last 25 things that you have copied and pasted. And so it's not always one for one when you're copying and pasting. So this one lets you kind of toggle through your copy and paste history, which has been really helpful for me. And then I think ClipX, so ClipX is the Windows one. I think CopyClip is the Mac version of that. But curious, do you guys have any productivity tools that you swear by? I'm always geeking out on this stuff.
I don't really. I'm kind of just a pen and paper kind of person for the most part. I use Google Calendar a lot. That's helpful, but otherwise, I'm pretty much pen and paper, daily list type stuff.
Well, in season 1 of our podcast, I don't remember the exact episode. Maybe you can look it up, Adam. But we did an entire episode on work from home tools and resources, and it was maybe a 25-minute episode, and we shared just a ton of apps, mobile apps, Google. The Google Suite and various things within the Google Suite. I'd highly recommend our listeners go back and listen to that episode, which seems like it was published eons ago. But anyway, it also in one of your books, Nick, you talk about domain name investing as a side hustle. Is there still money to be made in domain name investing?
I think what is interesting about the domain investing is the introduction of new extensions kind of levels the playing field. And so there's more than 200 top-level domain extension names now that, not all of them are going to be well adopted and popular, but every now and again, something kind of catches some traction. Like several years ago, we probably wouldn't have foreseen the popularity of .ios, but some people who were early in the boat there did pretty well. The guest that I've got recorded with, he has done pretty well with .gg names, which I never heard of, which I guess is like a gamer niche. He says like it stood for good game. And so he's like bought all these team names for esports team. I don't know. He did. It's like, okay, you register them for $40, you sell them for $1,000. It's like, okay, geez. That's a pretty good ROI. But what is perhaps more interesting on the domain investing front is actually buying established websites that have cash flow, that have traffic, that trade for a multiple of 30 to 36 times monthly earnings, which compared to the S&P 500 trading at 20 years times, or 20 times annual earnings, like it's a completely different ballgame. But there is obviously work involved. There's more risk involved. It's less, more volatile. But if you have the skill set to run and manage this portfolio, it's a really fast way, an interesting way to buy yourself into some online income.
What are some of the things people need to be wary of when they're starting a side hustle, like to make sure that they're not getting scammed by somebody if they're kind of going into, if they're buying into something, or, that they're not getting into an oversaturated market? Like, what are some of the signs to look for that you shouldn't pursue that avenue?
Oh my gosh, we should probably do a whole episode on this. I am really wary of people buying into anybody's, buy my, 7 secret steps to internet riches and stuff. Like, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Like, don't get, overly excited by somebody's, some people are amazing copywriters and they, can sell ice to Eskimos, and some people end up getting taken advantage of there. And that's not to say that everything out there is a scam, because obviously, people are making it work. It's just, is it going to be right for you? And so maybe that's one question to kind of frame in your mind, like, what does success look like? Can I find somebody who is doing this thing that I'm considering? What is their lifestyle like? Is that what I want 3 to 5 years from now? And if yes, okay, maybe that's worth some further research. I mean, my process has generally been to learn as much as I can for free through YouTube, through books, through reading other people's blogs, like bootstrap it, like see if it's something that's interesting to you. The podcast angle is another interesting one. We had a guy who started a virtual call center, and he's like, you know what? The founder of Ruby Receptionists, went on this podcast spree, and she let spill some pretty juicy secrets about, their cost structure and how they have this whole thing set up. It was immensely valuable versus trying to figure this all out on my own. So that's been my strategy. And then investing in products and courses as it makes sense to, pour some fuel on the fire rather than, go from 0 to 1.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on this show about learning and how you can improve yourself and learn skills. And folks, it's all available for free online. You don't even need to go on Amazon and buy the books. I mean, there's so much on YouTube. There's so much on Google. There's so many free newsletters, so many free podcasts. It's all available for free. People think, I need to go back to college and spend $40,000 a year to learn a lot of this stuff. Absolutely not. That's like a negative return, I think, as far as what the skills that you actually learn. But one thing that you mentioned, Nick, and that is these gurus who write good copy and say, buy this course and you're going to become an overnight millionaire. I'm actually curious about that, because there are some people who I really respect, some people who I even work with or worked with personally, who make these promises like, sign up for my 1-year coaching program. You get free one-on-one consulting, one-on-one coaching with me. And if I don't make you a millionaire within that 1 year, within that 2 years, if you're not doing $100,000 a month in gross cash flow, then I'm going to give you your money back. And they'll charge an arm and a leg for this coaching. They'll charge. I've seen a guy charge $30,000 a month for these coaching sessions. And initially, I was actually hooked. I was like, man, this sounds pretty legit. They're charging a lot of money, and they're giving this guarantee. Maybe I should scrap together some cash and try it out. Do they ever work? And what's so special about it? What's the secret behind it? I'm sure you've seen these.
Yeah, this is, where was I? It was like at Traffic and Conversion Summit, where it's all about, join the secret war room, and like, who's got the coolest mastermind, and it's like 25 grand. It's like a buy-in to these private clubs and stuff. And it's a ticket to your peers, basically, because that everybody else there also paid 25 grand or something. So like, they're equally serious about growing their business. They had the budget for that. And so the value, oftentimes, there's value in the coaching from the expert, but it's also from a network of peers. So I think there actually can be value. I mean, there's tremendous value in joining a mastermind group and having some peer accountability and having a group to bounce ideas off of. And I love the idea of that power guarantee from Perry Marshall and 80/20 sales and marketing, where it's like, hey, look, if you're that good, stand behind your work with that kind of guarantee. Not maybe not just even your money back, but like, I've seen people like, I'll double your money back, or like, I will personally roll up my sleeves and get into your business and do whatever it takes to make this a success for you. But you better believe that they are doing a serious application and vetting process before they let just anybody in there. Like, they need to see an opportunity that maybe you don't see, or have worked with previous businesses in that space to say, okay, we're confident that we can make a positive impact on this, versus, some newbie who has come into 30 grand to blow on this. And they're like, we don't have anything to apply this to. So there's nothing we can do here.
Really, really good episode. Nick Loper, founder of Side Hustle Nation and the host of the Side Hustle Nation podcast, #1 best-selling author of multiple books on side hustles, on working from home, on productivity. Check them out on Amazon. Just type in Nick Loper, Loper. The website is sidehustlenation.com. That's sidehustlenation.com. Nick, any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners or anything else you want to promote?
Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. It's been always fun to geek out on different productivity and business models. I really love this stuff. One final thing that is kind of top of mind lately is this idea of time leverage, right? When you are starting out in your career, you are trading hours for dollars, and that is perfectly normal, perfectly acceptable. But if you imagine your income as a pie chart, you ultimately, like, the end goal of financial independence or retirement is having that pie chart be made up of 100% passive income, or at least time leveraged income, where it's like you didn't have to directly go punch a clock or lay the bricks or do the Uber rides or whatever it is. And so you have to be carving out, and you have to be diligent about carving out some of your time or some of your dollars dedicated to these time leveraged activities and assets, where it's like, okay, maybe I don't get paid at all up front. Maybe it takes me, like it took me, probably a good year before I started to see any income from the shoe business. The same thing with Side Hustle Nation. It's like laying the groundwork, where it's probably close to a year before I saw any meaningful income from that project too. But over time, it's become time leverage, where, the marketing flywheel can start to spin. And by dedicating the time to it up front, it's afforded me, a lifestyle of more flexible schedule and more freedom down the road, rather than just punching the clock.
Nick Loper, thank you so much once again for joining us on the Work From Home Show. To all our listeners, check out our website, workfromhomeshow.com. That's workfromhomeshow.com. You can find all of our previous episodes there. Email us if you have any questions, comments, concerns. hello@workfromhomeshow.com. That's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. Follow us on all social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, several others. Leave us a review on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify. We're anywhere and everywhere, Amazon and Audible too. And until next week, keep on working from home.